Here's where I've just come from. I don't know whether you can see this. This is the happy book of exotic crops for the Super Bowl,
And
which I attempted to execute a couple of nights ago at Palace Station in Las Vegas. I mean, you won't believe how exotic this stuff gets. The color of Gatorade that the winning coach will be doused in at the end of the game, the jersey numbers of the people who were thought to be scoring the first touchdowns or catching the first pass or making the first down. It's nuts. And people are actually throwing money at that stuff. They say that the appeal of wagering on the Super Bowl has never been better than when somebody came up with the concept of the exotic proposition.
how long the Star Spangled Banner is going to be, you know?
Exactly.
Yep.
Isn't that crazy? The coin flip?
The first song
I thought,
Rihanna is going to sing.
yeah, right. You know what what I'm going to do is because it's just business for me this time. I'm not a fan of either team. I've
Yeah.
decided I'm going to skip the first 2 hours and then check in to see if she's singing. I want to see the halftime show, and
Okay.
then I can check back out again because I'm not a fan of either team. I just think that I can see where this is going. You've got a team that struggled at home in its two playoff games, that was lucky to beat Jacksonville at home, was really lucky to beat Cincinnati
Hmm.
at home against a team that has two playoff blowouts.
Yeah.
And I just see stuff flowing the Eagles' way. It just feels all year like it's been an Eagles year. I do not like the team or its fans. I can take or leave the city. I spent way too much time there in the late 70s on business. And so I'm all Philadelphia'd out. But if they can win me some money, I left some money there on the first half, on the game, on the money line, and on two exotic props. One of which is number 40104, Eagles minus 6.5. In other words, they have to win by seven, at least seven,
Okay.
and Eagles minus 7.5, which would mean they have to win by at least 8. I don't think that 28-20 is, that's a respectable effort on both teams, and it falls under the total. And both of them, the minus 6.5 is plus 200, meaning put in 100, get 300 back if you win, and the other is 240. So put 100 in, get 340 back if you win. So
Ooh.
those are my
Locks?
positions.
Are they your deadlocks?
My business positions on Sunday. Oh no, I don't know that there's a lock out there unless I have a friend in Las Vegas who, a former writing colleague at Thomson Reuters FindLaw, who only bets against University of Wisconsin Green Bay basketball. That's that's all he does because they always lose and they never cover. It's as close to a sure thing. They're a home dog tonight, like 11 points, something like that. It's as close to a sure thing as there is out there. So I contacted him. I said, "Hey, Green Bay, 11-point dog at home tonight." And he goes, "Nah, I'm bored with beating them. I'm going to watch the Nuggets in Orlando." Oh,
Oh, geez.
if you can believe that.
Yeah, there's some bad basketball. I mean, Georgetown, didn't they have a run where they were losing every game? I mean,
Oh,
there's
yeah,
just
they finally won one about a week ago for the first time in years. I'm really amazed that Patrick Ewing at his size hasn't had some sort of cardiac
yeah.
issue.
It's sad when the great teams once were now are just like shadows of themselves. Are their numbers down there? Are they just now just very, you know, people go there to go to school rather than play basketball.
Yeah. Well, that's what I would do with it, but I'm not an athlete. Georgetown degree still means a little something.
All
And a
right.
lot of those professors are well known in other, walks of life before they took those jobs. So yeah,
True.
Georgetown's a happening place academically. The other issue that's come up today is the laughing stock of an anti-fan league known as the NBA. I told the guy who I texted with today, I said, "Why would you want to watch that league? That league doesn't care about you as a fan. that league only exists to benefit, and this Brooklyn thing is illustrative of that. It only exists to benefit the front office people, the media, the agents, and the bettors. That's it. The
Right.
fans, they could give a damn who plays night to night, who feels like playing night to night. Oh, gee, I'm tired of Brooklyn. I want out of Brooklyn.
It's
It's
terrible.
just, it's terrible.
I think the bad thing too is like a kid goes out and he buys his favorite player's uniform. Odds are pretty good that uniform is going to be pretty worthless next year because he didn't play there.
Either worthless or a collector's item.
Possibly.
Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, maybe. All I know is when I was in Vegas and I stopped at one of the NFL store, and they had a McCaffrey's jersey who had just been traded, or they were anticipating him being traded. All of his Carolina jerseys were on clearance for half price. So I don't know. I guess in the long run it might be worth something, but yeah, not if they're mass produced.
Well,
But as far as
I
your
try
Super
to,
Bowl, your Super Bowl bet, Bob, I'm just how is Mahomes? Is he healthy 100% or is he still hobbling around?
you know what? When it comes to ankles, having had a high ankle sprain that robbed me of my, I forget which year it was, junior, senior in high school basketball. One of the first things I was told was a sprained ankle is never the same.
Wow.
And I I just have a feeling. I hope it's not true. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that they're beaten fairly and squarely as opposed to the
Yeah,
way the Niners were beaten in Philadelphia.
true.
Um, but I feel weird about this. I'm amazed at his recovery, but I could not put money on a guy who's recently had a high ankle sprain.
I think you're right there.
That's one low hit, one tackle of the legs, and that's that. It was pretty freaky the way he hurt it in the first place. If you remember that play, seeing the replays, and they usually offer replays from a variety of angles. Uh, I remember the pain, and I had to drive myself to the doctor, and it was
Mm.
my brake foot. Can you imagine the pain? And
Oh,
I get to the clinic, and the doctor says to me, "Huh, I've never seen one like that before." Oh, good. That's nice to know. Can you please make the swelling go down so I can resume my life? So, as miraculous as this guy's recovery has been, when it comes between the two quarterbacks, and Hurts has been injured recently too.
yeah.
He missed a couple of games, right?
They did. Yeah, it's hard to be a durable quarterback in today's NFL, that's for sure. That's San
I,
Francisco.
I have a feeling that somebody of a non-quarterback nature is going to settle the game because these two guys, you just don't know what condition they're in, and nobody wants to play their hand in public and let the other side know, what they're thinking or how people are feeling. I just want to make some money on the deal.
That's
It's
all we want. We just
because
want a little.
it's such a crime that California does not have this wagering. Minnesota may wind up with it, but we do not have it and never will because Vegas does what it can in advertising with all kinds of myths and deceptions to get people in this state to lose all that unbelievably that income, that taxable income. Tens of billions are going to be wagered on this game.
Right.
Why somebody wouldn't want a portion of that for their state is just
Well, and
beyond me.
so California's reason is the proximity. Is the Minnesota's reason puritanical? I mean, just
I'll bet the
God's
reasons
people
in
don't
both states.
gamble.
I'll bet the reasons in both states are the tribes.
Mm, that's
The
true too.
tribes don't want anyone, interfering with how they interpret the pacts and whatnot. I think it was amazing that the Racino got underway. Putting the card rooms in with the horse racing,
Hmm.
which is what we have here, but nothing by phone. Oh dear, what would happen if children got hold of it? Children aren't going to be able to. Come on, give me a break.
Right.
As a matter of fact, one of the anti sports gambling for California ads showed a family at dinner and the kids are unable to focus on dinner conversation with their parents because they're getting constant communiques on scores and games they supposedly have money on. Total fiction. Would never happen.
Well, that's already a problem because they're looking at other things besides that. So
They just, they want to know how many likes they're getting on
yeah, I know. They're looking at social networks and stuff
TikTok.
like that. Yeah.
And that reminds me, I don't think I've ever asked anybody this yet. The answer for me is no. But have either of you ever sampled, if it's possible to sample, TikTok?
No, but my wife is a fan.
I think I might have tried it once, but I couldn't. Like, I think you get in and you're like, you have to be a member, you have to sign into something, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. So yeah. No, my kids are full of it. They love TikTok. The little.
It wouldn't hurt for us to get involved in that because you can do shorts, and I think there's some money in that. We just have to do some vertical video and some shorts.
Does Bob have to dance at all?
I don't think so. Although it'd be kind of fun to watch him twerk.
Yes. Well, you answered almost all my questions about TikTok. So I have to be a member if I want to see something on it. The thing is, though, what is there to see on it that would interest someone of my age range, which is 80 to 95?
The aforementioned twerking.
So if I search twerking on Google, it would send me immediately to TikTok. Is that the deal?
No, they're just the specialists. You can find any Tom, Dick, or Harry twerking out there. But yeah, girl, I guess.
What are the chances, as I'm hearing, there are chances of people leaving their data or data vulnerable to Chinese reception of said data?
It must be something. I'll let the tech guy handle it, but it must be something if it's running through government channels.
I have suspicions. Yeah, it's run by China. They're trying to separate it, and they want U.S. TikTok to be separate from Chinese TikTok, which is probably a smart move, I would think. But yeah, I have some lack of trust with TikTok.
I wonder what the chance of danger is there compared to spy balloons, for instance.
They say those balloons are all over the world. I mean, we just happen to get one of them, but they're in every country. Crazy.
How they send them up to the stratosphere, which is like 2 levels above where airplanes fly. Can you imagine how amazing that technology must be to be able to take pictures from that far up? And with that plus this rumor that TikTok is an agent of the Chinese government, man, we're screwed. Or we're going to have to compete. We're going to have to send our own. Well, first of all, aren't there satellites up there doing the same thing anyway?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what everybody does it. That's why it's all a big surprise that, this is actually still in existence. Why are we using balloons? But
did you see the Saturday Night Live interview with the Bowen Yang was perfect.
What do you think of Bowen Yang? He's in everything.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's the new
I first saw him on what's Aquafina's show.
Oh, okay.
Nora from Queens, Aquafina's sitcom. That's where I first noticed him. And he's perfect for that role in Saturday Night Live. They're not going to be able to keep him for very long.
Right.
How they've been able to keep a couple of those people all these years is pretty astounding to me.
Yeah, they still have some good hits. It's always amazing. Every year they have that roller coaster of, this is not very good. But then by the end, like, these guys know what they're doing because it's a clever comedy.
I forget what the three names are. The one who imitates Trump, but that is genius, man.
Oh yeah. Well, that was how he got the gig, I think. He was online.
Oh, is that true?
Doing Trump, and they liked it so much, and Alec Baldwin's a little busy with other things right now.
Oh man, there's another one.
Jeez.
Who's in bad shape, but you know what? He's generated some horrible karma during his life.
Yeah,
with the way he's swaggered around New York, punching people and ramming them with his car and knocking over,
you're right,
people on bicycles and media people, whatnot. He's generated some horrible karma. He's a very talented guy. Loved 30 Rock.
And
loved a lot of his.
he's on the right side of the political aisle. That's why it's hard to dislike him. But yeah, he's a mess.
Yeah,
And family wise, I don't understand this serial parenthood deal like it's him and Nick Cannon for prolific um, prolific media
Yeah.
sire.
I think Nick Cannon is the number one right now. Every joke I ever hear about multiple children, it's like it all goes back to him.
Yeah.
He's
I
poster
think
boy.
his full name should be Nick Haza Cannon because
That was
he
one of
must
your
have
names.
just,
That was back one of your names in one of your the porn years. We had a cannon.
I think he has like an oscillating sprinkler. He's just spraying reproductive material
Oh no.
all over, all over wherever he is.
Can we say that? Can we say that?
Reproductive material? I don't know why not.
I think
never-
we're good there.
I never
don't think
cursed on the
the,
radio. Why
Yeah, I
start
mean, you
now?
could technically he can curse as much as he wants, right?
YouTube came up with an algorithm where you can't swear within the first 20 seconds of your video. And you
Mhm.
might get demonetized if you do that. After that, it's fair game, I think.
You don't want to lose money on the deal.
Did you say 20 seconds or 20 minutes?
20 seconds.
So if you can just struggle past that first 20 seconds
Yeah.
without an S bomb or an F bomb, you're home free. You could be Howard Stern.
Problem is, yeah, a lot of videos got demonetized because of that rule, because they instituted it and then they didn't grandfather any videos in. They just demonetized them without any advance warning. So there was some uproar about it.
That's hilarious.
What goes into acquiring a YouTube channel for something like this?
It's through Google. All you need is a Google account.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done it with every business I worked at. We've had some sort of YouTube channel representation, promo videos, speaking engagements, that type of thing. It's the thing, man.
Through my partner, this was a couple of years ago. There's some sort of YouTube channel for conversations, but don't laugh. I've laughed about it plenty, the irony of it, but Zoom conversations during COVID between myself and my pastor. So this is quite the departure from that subject matter wise.
Well,
but points to me for versatility. I'm sorry.
That was you with your pastor or just in general people with their pastor?
No, it was my pastor, me and my pastor. Remember that from Nelson? Me and my shadow.
Oh yes.
Yeah. We were going to get a series of conversations together to attach to emails that went out to the congregants and whatnot, and increased pub to the Westwood Presbyterian there in the UCLA section of LA where we attend. And I forget what interrupted it. Nevertheless, it was kind of an education to getting a YouTube channel. But I thought I'd better ask about this because that would just make it easier for people to find us. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a good way to promote. So yeah,
I thought I caught a couple of those videos. Was she a female pastor?
Yes.
I thought that might have been your girlfriend. You ever dated a pastor before?
I love hearing that.
Oh well. They're very entertaining.
I'm glad I didn't have a mouthful of the official beverage of the show, San Pellegrino fizzy water, because I would have done a Danny Thomas. I would have done a Danny Thomas spit take at the very thought of my pastor being my girlfriend.
How many times are you going to drop, like you've already said, brought to you by Thomson Reuters Find Law, where you just
it's
little
like verbal
drops.
product placement, isn't it?
Yes, it's not a bad idea, right, Kurt? I mean, if we can get some people who might sponsor the show and hearing that.
Yeah, we could start out with some fake sponsors and then go from there.
Exactly.
Not that Netflix needs the verbal product placement, but a quick addendum, if I may, to what was discussed last week about this show that I predict will only run one season, because you really only need one season of Conk on Earth before you get the joke. But I finally realized since we last spoke why I like that show so much is because the question she's asking these authentic experts with with their amazing beards, they're so esteemed and
Oh,
reputable, and the big academics, they got the big beard, and she's asking them with a straight face these really stupid questions,
yes.
and it reminds me of the questions that I asked Prince of a guy, outdoor editor for KFAN in Minneapolis back in the late 90s, early aughts. It was at live broadcasts, and I would try to ask with a straight face the outdoor questions that a novice would ask, such as, Frank, how far away are we from being able to shoot deer from our car?
That's that.
Frank,
Yeah.
if we put in the ground a statue or a facade of a deer, would other deer collect around it? So we could kill all of them?
You had a real
And
anti-deer stance back in the day, didn't you?
I was just playing the cunt role, the total idiot, because I was not an outdoors person, not a hunter, not a fisherman. And let's see, what was the other one? Oh, Frank, how far away are we from being able to catch fish that are already filleted?
Oh, jeez.
And then the Lollapalooza was, Frank, this deer urine scent that the men smear on themselves as they go up to their deer stand. How is that urine drawn?
Oh my gosh. Reproductive
None of
material
that
in animal urine.
nonsense.
How many
None
bodily
of that
fluids?
nonsense involved any kind of profanity, so I could get away with it in public.
Yes.
The only thing is, Frank was embarrassed for me. He couldn't believe that someone would be that clueless on the outdoors, who would need to be outdoors, let's say, to go from his car to his business or from his car to his home. I knew what it was like being outdoors. I just never hunted or fished. I mean, I was taken as a child, I was taken hunting, I think it was squirrel hunting, but I couldn't get the hang of breaking the rifle down and pointing it down as we walked along. It was always pointed Dick Cheney style. Who was vulnerable.
Didn't the guy Cheney shot in the face? Didn't he just pass?
Finally died, yes.
Oh, they tried to kill him years ago, and he persisted.
That has to have come up in the eulogy,
Yeah.
in the actual church service. That has to have come up.
It had to. Oh my
I
god.
wonder if Cheney was invited. I'll bet he wasn't.
How's he doing, by the way? Is he hanging on? I mean,
You
my
know what?
goodness.
He surfaced when Liz was in such bad shape politically
Right.
toward the end of Trump.
He stood up for her
When
a
she
little bit.
took over the committee and whatnot, he came out and did some defending of her, even though she lost her own state's primary for that spot. But
Mhm.
he's still alive. He's just meaner. He's just as mean as he always was.
That's surprising
But
considering
he's
all
not
the
shooting anybody, thank goodness.
surprised that he's still kicking with all those open heart surgeries he was having there for a while.
That's true.
Have either of you seen the movie? What was that called? The Cheney thing with
Was it called Dick? No. What was it? Vice. Wait,
was
something like Vice.
Vice. Vice.
Was it just
Because
Vice?
Bush referred to him as his vice.
Okay.
Just use vice president. Not to be confused with Veep, Julia
No.
Louis-Dreyfus on cable, right?
Or if your TV show was called Vice, it would be about a different type of vice. I'm guessing.
It seemed like the end of that movie, like the last act of that movie, he went into the hospital for a heart problem. His character did, Christian Bale, right?
Yeah. Which
Every 5 minutes, the guy had a heart attack. In the third act of that movie, it was
right. Was it
not
kind of
boring.
that was kind of an odd movie too? Wasn't he like talking to the screen a lot or breaking
Yeah.
the fourth wall? Yeah.
Right.
I just love when
Same as his role in The Big Short, if you remember that, about the financial thing.
yeah.
They were having people turn and talk to the camera. Margot Robbie was in a hot tub and explained what a short sale was, or some sort of fancy financial term. By the way, speaking of Margot Robbie, we saw or attempted to see Babylon the other night.
Okay.
And I think we may have invented a new kind of spat. because we're in the third act, and there's a section in the third act. By the way, the movie is a nightmare. Don't see it. It's a total freaking nightmare.
I
It's
heard
just a
some people
party from beginning to end. Huh?
some critics said good things about it. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I've heard things.
Well,
but
when
I
it's no
believe
longer
you.
$20, if it's
Okay.
ever free, check it out.
All right.
There's a section at the end that could easily have been sawed off and lifted out, and like half an hour being saved. They needed to put the one redeemable sympathetic character in trouble. So they sent him with another guy to follow Toby Maguire, who shows up late in the movie looking like Robert Blake in Lost Highway, and really creepy guy. And they chase him down into this dungeon where there's this enormous gargoyle guy who's biting the heads off rats, and it's about as gross as a movie can possibly get. So this is when the partner got up and walked away, and I said, "Hey, pay $20 for this damn thing. You sit here and put up with it with me." So there was a spat.
Have you
So
walked out of a lot of movies in your life?
I think the first one was during my second marriage, and it was a movie called Undercover Blues with Dennis Quaid,
And oh yeah, and
Kathleen Turner.
yes, Kathleen Turner.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And she said, "Let's go." Oh, and she also ordered us out of the theater when De Niro bit a chunk out of a woman's cheek in a movie called Cape Fear. It
Oh
was the
yeah,
remake of Cape Fear. It was very violent, and she said, "I can't handle this," so I followed her out. But very few,
yeah.
like
Me either.
maybe 0.3% of movies have I walked out.
Well, generally, if you lay down lot of money for a show, you're gonna watch it to the bitter end. I mean, that's usually how I feel about it.
Well, and especially since with the new rules for Oscar eligibility, and a lot of movies going straight online or straight to theaters, followed by online.
Right,
If you get the early access, you have to pay for it. And sometimes curiosity killed the cat, as it did with my family and Babylon. But there have
right.
been others that have been very pleasant experiences, that I can recommend. By the way, we talked about Oscars briefly last week.
Yeah.
I came up with the three that I've seen.
Okay, I've
I've
seen
seen
four.
Tar.
Okay.
Okay, I've seen Tar, I've seen Triangle of Sadness, and I've seen Banshees. Those are the
Oh,
only three.
okay. The four I've seen are the Banshees, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Top Gun.
What did you think of Elvis?
I loved it. I thought it was
Did
great.
you?
I love a good musical, and I love his music. So I thought, and the kid who played him was sensational.
Yeah.
Hanks in the fat suit, I could have lived without, but it is what it is.
Speaking of Hanks, have you seen Otto, A Man Called Otto?
No, my mom, my almost 80-year-old mom did see it, and she liked it a lot. But
Yeah.
she also saw 80 for Brady, and she didn't like it. I know she thought it was nice to see the gals, but she thought it was a little crazy, a little
Yeah.
nonsensical. I'm like, well, I just like to see
Because I haven't seen Elvis, I asked this question out of ignorance. How frequent were the close-ups of the guy's groin? Because I
well,
saw one, and it looked like, the way he was going up and down, it looked like he had nothing harnessing.
yeah, I guess if that's what you're into, it's probably in there, but
I'm not into it, but apparently the women
yeah,
spectators were
no,
into it.
yes, they were so into it. You could see what was happening to these poor girls as you looked in their eye. If the eyes are the window to the soul, you could see what was going on in the soul.
It was a peep show.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say the window to the
They were
soul was a
losing their
peep show.
virginity, you might say. It was something watching these.
You know what? He really insinuated himself into the Presley family in those weeks and months before Lisa Marie's death.
Right.
By the way, did you hear about, let's say, her like 90 days or 6 months, however that went, leading up to her death?
Well, I
She
know
lost 50 pounds. She wanted to look good at Oscar time because she knew Elvis was going to be nominated for an Oscar, and she wanted to look slender for that. She lost 50 pounds in ways that make my Nutrisystem experience for KSTP look tame.
There's another sponsor drop. Way to go, Bob.
They're still advertising.
Of course.
And, there was litigation over the healthfulness or not of Nutrisystem. The food was so bad when I endorsed it, and also Dark Star was endorsing it at WCCO.
Level with me. Is that a real deal? Is that like you guys really doing the system, or you're just saying you're doing the system?
That's what a nurse asked me when we had to go in for our weekly or monthly checkup while we were on Nutrisystem, almost like a litigation avoidance type tactic to say, hey, we had him checked out. We didn't know he was going to die of a heart attack. So I go to the nurse and she weighs me and she says, okay, out with it. How are you getting so ahead of schedule with the weight loss? And I said, and I was truthful, I said, coffee and cigarettes. The food tastes like shit. It did. They have to have improved the food. It always looks good on the commercials, but I'll be frank with you, it was bad. And it's bad when they give you this arsenal of spices to scatter on it. That's when food has no taste, is when they give you, this murderer's row of all kinds of exotic spices to put on it to make it taste interesting.
But you saw it through.
That was the way to weight loss back then.
You saw it through to the end?
I did.
All right.
But I did not see it through to Nutrisystem's end as a company, because they were in a lot of courts.
I bet.
For a lot of people's health problems, and frankly, it made radio endorsers look bad.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have that back then.
Did
I ever tell you the story about the tortillas that I endorsed for a day? It was like a 6-month contract, and it lasted a day because I said to the people on the radio the same thing that the guy with the company and the agency told me to. They didn't tell me to say it. They just told me about the product. They said it was made by real Mexicans, a real Mexican, an authentic Mexican family. Like Gonzalez or Ramirez,
just one
or
family.
Something like
Yes.
this.
Okay.
So I went on the air and I said, don't think this is some white guy fraud deal. These tortillas are made by real Mexicans.
Oh, jeez.
Ring, 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 ring. Yes, cancel our contract, please. So it cost me $3,200
for the joke
in endorsement fees. And so here's the happy ending. I went to Vegas, and in one night at the blackjack table, won play $3,200.
Yay! And it always happens like that for you. Doggone it.
Yep.
You burn a bridge.
How's this? I've got another beautiful story with a happy ending I'll share with you that I don't think I've ever shared with anyone, even back in the day on the radio.
True confessions.
I'm 5 years. I wish I had a sponsor for this. I was about 5 years old, already literate because a neighbor girl who wants to be and wound up an excellent teacher took me under her wing. There's nothing, pedophilic about this at all. Taught me English. I was fluent by 5. So I'm using the Fort Worth Library Systems. It's called the Bookmobile. It's a van where you go into the van.
I know what a
bookmobile is. The books are lining
is.
the thing. So I get a book because I loved reading about the athletes, the famous athletes. So I'm sitting in the back seat of my car, of my father's car, at a service station owned by a friend of his, longtime friend of his, fellow white racist, who comes over to the rear seat window and sees that I'm reading a book about Joe Louis. And he says, what? I'll clean this up. What you reading about that N-word for? And I just kind of shrugged. I was 5, and I'd heard that word by that time of the day probably a dozen times. And fast forward 20 years, and in a business capacity for the Pro Tennis Tour, I'm in the lobby of the foyer, whatever they called it back then, at Caesar's Palace. And my boss, I remember my boss's voice to this day. Bob, say hello to the official greeter for Caesar's Palace, Mr. Joe Louis.
Yes.
And I'll never forget how enormous and kind of spongy and warm his hand was. And I was I was really flattered because he moved his cigarette over to his highball hand in order to shake hands with me. He had a drink and a cigarette going, this former great athlete.
That's your move.
Now, that's another irony of the story, I guess. But I just feel
that's
like
when you started taking up smoking, right?
I really no, that was at college. That was age 18.
Okay.
But anyway, I just felt that was a real clap back at racism, the way that turned out, that I actually got to
That's great.
put my hand in the ashen hand of Joe Louis. He really was ashen. He was 4 years away from dying, by the way.
Wow.
So
I love that
wow.
story, and I can't believe this is the first time that story's ever been told.
Yep.
Right here on this podcast.
It was like shaking hands with American history. All those great nights at Yankee Stadium in the 30s and 40s when he was fighting Max Schmeling, who was Hitler's fighter at the time. And it was American athletic history you're shaking hands with.
That spongy hand.
To this day, it was about the size of a catcher's mitt.
Okay.
I'm not kidding you. And it was fluffy and spongy and warm, and maybe Joe died of a circulation issue or something, a circulatory deal, because his hand was really warm. And
you could have climbed up into his hand and taken a nap.
I'm thinking, what would it feel like to be hit with that repeatedly?
Oh, like getting slapped with a tortilla.
Made by a real Mexican.
All full circle. That's our goal in this podcast. We always come full circle.
And yeah, all we need now for it is a name and a few more fake sponsors, and we'll be good to go. And a YouTube channel. Can
we get a trivia? I'll get a trivia question for the day. You up for one? All right. Top 5 movies with the most swear words.
Boy, Robbie, when he was small, and I used to play a game called Pulp Fiction, and I would move the needle up to, let's say, 17 minutes in, and I would say, okay, in the next minute, how many F-bombs will be uttered? And he'll say 3, and I'll say 7, and whoever came closest would be the winner of that edition of the game.
How old was Robbie?
11, 12, something like that. Well, the movie came out in 94, so he had to be at least 8 because he was born in 86. So is Pulp Fiction one of them?
It is not. It's actually pretty recent movies. Well, not kind of, but you mentioned Margot Robbie earlier. That was the number 1 with Leo DiCaprio and Mr. Jonah Hill. Do you know which one that is? Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Okay.
What number 2, Adam Sandler, a recent movie. I think Kevin Garnett was in it on Netflix.
Oh, Uncut Gems.
You got it. That's number 2.
Way too tense. I could only handle about half an hour of
it. The aforementioned Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci and Don Rickles.
Raging Bull?
No, it was one of your favorite hangouts, Casino. Yeah.
That was very painful. I watched, who we were sitting with in the Stillwater movie theater watching that movie?
Well, who?
Ruth Kozlak and her husband.
Oh, nice.
That's how long ago it was.
Oh,
we sat there while Joe Pesci and about 6 other guys killed people with aluminum baseball bats.
I love that movie. I'm sorry. I thought it was great.
Really? You like Casino?
Yeah.
Really?
Why not? That's a good movie, isn't it?
By the way, happy birthday to Joe Pesci, 80 years of age today.
Wow.
What do you think of that segue?
That's
you don't think I don't come to this thing prepared?
You're the king of the segues. You always were. Number 4, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Wow, it's been a long time since I've seen it. Oh, that's a sequel, right? So I didn't see the sequel.
Yeah, I guess. I never saw those. I saw the original.
The first was Clerks, right?
Clerks. I saw Clerks. That's all you need to see as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
and then the last
one,
fifth. I don't even know who the last one is. Fury? Was that a recent?
Fury.
Yeah. I'll have to do some research.
I know a TV show, Fury, from my childhood, The Horse and the Boy Who Loved Him.
And
I don't think it's that one with Peter Graves.
Was
that a Civil War thing?
Yeah, I think it might have been. Was it a tank? Wasn't there a tank thing or something?
You know what? I'm kind of surprised that Blackwood isn't. Huh?
Yeah, I think you hit it. There's a tank named Fury, and I think they did a movie about it.
Yeah. So it was a war movie, kind of.
Wow.
More
And a lot
recent
of
though, right? It was just a
a lot
couple
of
years
curse
ago.
words. You say
I
there's
didn't
a lot of
watch it
curse
myself.
words in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, number 5 total. Yeah. And then here's the last question. Which actor has said the most swears in films? 376 total, 22.9 per 1,000 words.
De Niro.
No, actually more recent. He was in a movie actually you mentioned last week watching with Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy has said more.
No, not Eddie,
What?
but with that, who's in the movie with Eddie Murphy that you just saw?
Jonah Hill?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Jonah Hill to have a career that is much shorter than the other people we've mentioned. You're telling me he has the record for the most swear words career.
I'm looking at a newsletter I'm reading. Yes, that's the
So
most.
he is the LeBron of swearing.
Oh, you're segueing again, aren't you?
There might be a recency bias here going on.
I think, yeah, Jonah Hill, number 1.
Where are you getting this information?
It's a newsletter I subscribe to called The Morning Brew. See,
Okay.
I'm contributing.
All right. Let's go full circle back to square one to wrap up with apropos of LeBron.
Okay.
You know, the LeBron versus Jordan argument has been revived. Who was the greatest player in your estimation, LeBron or Jordan? Not that LeBron's career is over yet. He could
No,
probably
that's the
play another
thing.
3 years.
That's the thing. And it's all about it really is column A, column B, because it's one of them won all the titles, had what perfect record in 6-0, whereas LeBron is what 3-6?
Four.
Okay. So it's
Jordan's
more like
won 4, LeBron's won I'm sorry, Jordan's won 6, LeBron's won 4.
right. And the pure fact that he's been to so many more, that's got to mean something. I mean, he beat some I'm talking LeBron, they beat some very tough teams back when he was in the East Conference. So it's like,
yeah,
I get it.
Jordan would have won 8 if he didn't take 2 years to play baseball.
Did you?
I have an analogy for that.
Yes.
Michael Jordan playing minor league baseball and Cristiano Ronaldo playing in Saudi Arabia. He scored 4 goals today, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's a couple of doubles in minor league ball for Michael Jordan back in the day. I don't see how you can add Ronaldo's goal total to his career goals because he's literally playing sandlot ball.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean,
Here's the way
it's
the way I
hard
parse
who do you pick?
LeBron versus Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan was the greatest winner and leader of the modern era to 6 titles. I think they are tied as team player. They were great ball distributors, rebounders, outlet pass. They could do it all. When either put it in his mind, I'm going to score, they would score.
Right.
LeBron is the extreme example of that. You can tell when he comes down the court, I'm going to find a way to get to the basket. I'm going to score. That's pretty crazy, you know? In what other business is that possible?
You're right.
Could a businessman say, I'm going to make $300 million today? Well, you can't, unless you're Elon Musk, you're not going to do that. But LeBron, more points than Kareem, more points than Wilt. He is the most prolific scorer. I can't imagine anyone topping what he is still yet to finish.
Age-wise, are they this? How many years did they play? Is that pretty close?
I think LeBron's going to have it on Jordan for years in the league and years on earth, big time.
Yeah. The other thing about Jordan you always hear, but especially if you watch Last Dance, read any books, he was just the meanest to his teammates. And I don't know, is LeBron like that? Is he kind of a jerk to his teammates to hopefully bring them better?
I think LeBron is one of the most admired people in the United States of any gender, of any color. You know, he runs that school, a legit school in Ohio. He gives to charity. He speaks out on social issues. Neither Michael Jordan nor Tiger Woods ever took any stands for any kind of social justice.
Yeah.
And so I think LeBron is going to go down in history as the complete person, not just the athlete.
I think you're right. Maybe that's the deciding factor there. Because the thing is, Michael Jordan's degenerate gambler, would you say?
And they say that also that he really lucked out of not being killed by mafia guys for losing you know, gambling on golf, and also not after his career, everything was still, I got to be the fastest, I got to be the best. The competition addiction that Tom Brady, by the way, suffers from, and which cost him a marriage. They say that Michael Jordan could have led the league in speeding tickets through the surface streets and highways of Chicago because he just was accustomed to being first, whether it's to a red light or to a basket in the course of a game. You know, it's really an addiction, and I kind of feel sorry for him to that degree. I think, you know what? I think there are celebrities that we should be glad we are not.
I agree. That's a good way to say it.
And he's one of them. Lisa Marie Presley. What was her day like, do you think, at the height of her powers? She never really had to do anything. She had the Elvis estate, you know, feeding tens of millions to her every year. Does anybody want to be her now? Not me.
She had to marry Michael Jackson.
Oh Lord, can you imagine?
Hey, what's Priscilla Presley up to? Is she still around? Is she kick? I mean,
she's still around.
In the estate, right?
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Kurt?
I just said she's still around. Yeah, like you said, managing the estate.
What do you think of that as a title for the podcast? What was that you were trying to say, Kurt?
Oh yeah, that's what we have to come up with titles for the podcast, all of them. But
or maybe just managing the estate. That's a good name.
Your sponsor.
I'm good with anything. I appreciate both of your efforts on this, and I know that Kurt will keep us posted as to, you know, when the next step or steps happen, and we'll just go from there. But this is just very enjoyable.
I'm very proud to post this podcast. This was a good one today. I feel really
okay.
You know, I'm telling more and more people about it and sending them a link. You know, like when Kurt sends me the link, I send it off, and who knows, maybe we'll get some views and likes and whatever TikToks or whatever the hell people give you these days.
Okay. Yeah, the next video will be on its own YouTube channel, and I think I'll try and get this anchor thing going too. So get them posted to both. Assuming
Thanks
I can
to both
it
of
out.
you. Talk to you next week.
Sounds good, Bob.
All right. Adios.
So long for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.